Our guest today is Jaco Boëttger, a philosopher, author, and a human capital development consultant. Jaco has developed what he refers to as liberation management solutions, which he's implemented in more than 30 countries across the globe. Join our conversation to learn more about what this intriguing liberation management solutions entails. So Jaco, welcome.
Thank you so much. What a privilege.
And thank you for being here.
Not at all.
Yeah, braving this cold Joburg weather on a public holiday, the 16th of June. Thank you for giving up your time with your family.
Me. Not at all.
Yeah. So who is Jaco? Give us a sense of who Jaco is, please.
Searching, always looking for answers, wondering, and trying to make sense. And at the deepest level, I would describe myself as being very lucky because I studied philosophy and making a living out of that. So I guess sense making. And if you get pulled into, I always say, if you align who you are with what you do, you get magic. And that's a huge privilege. So that's what I've always been doing, wondering about things. And then when I think I've got an answer or two, to share it. And like you know, you very much become humbler in that process because we simply don't know. Yeah. But we've got a right to search the wonders of not only life but the universe and people. So yeah, searching, very much traveling man through world and life, and being absolutely blessed that I could make a living from that.
Yeah, interesting that you think philosophy is lucky. I think it's crazy for anyone to study philosophy.
Isn't it just? And it's, you know, once as a parent, you've got to, well, I do a program with guys called Discover Your Music, where we've got this band and they would play. And I would say to the audience, we look at that and we say, I wish I could play piano, and it must be very nice to do that. But we can all discover our music, and maybe your music is what you're doing now, and people behind the cameras doing what they do, that's their music, and maybe it's selling. So we all need to align who we are with what we do. So very interesting point, you know, this whole thing with parents saying, we talked about Malcolm Gladwell informally, a parent saying, let's look at the market, go and study this because there's a need. So here's my thing, you become a dentist, they get paid well, or a CA, and we need them, my goodness. So do that if you need to. But to say to somebody that hates that, do maths or become an auditor, but you sell your soul, I honestly believe there's room for everybody to align who they are with what they do, you know, whether it's a baker or a musician or whatever it is, and that's the beauty in it. And the Chinese says, you know, we chase money very often, but there's a saying that money's got 4 legs and we've got 2. Yeah. So if you start chasing money, money will always be naturally faster than you. But if you chase your dreams, money will start chasing you. And here's the thing, you can't outrun the 4 legs. Yeah. So success chases those who align who they are with what they do, and they, you know, they've got that passion for it. Yeah. So in that sense, I think it does make sense not to sell your soul. And Oliver Wendell Holmes said that the saddest thing that can happen to any of us is to die with our music still unmade inside of us. Yeah.
Easier said than done, though. Some of these professions
absolutely
don't enable people, at least not in all instances. I mean, we know, for instance, about if we take fine art as an example, here in South Africa as an example, I know there are areas where it does really well. But how many fine artists do you know that can live off of that? You know, so if we're saying follow your passion, which I'm a huge believer in, we kind of make it challenging for them to do that, don't we?
We try to, our best. I try to do a little bit of art where I live, and you know, it's just that art is when you really, old Jung said, art's a weird thing. It manifests through you. So again, people that really do art and make music, it's not as if they go and sit down and say, I need to do this because I want to make a living out of this. It forces you. You become that person, and it actually gets a life through you, and it manifests through you. So I think real artists don't really have a choice. And then here's the sad thing, but it's doable. So you need to subsidize to have the ability to do your art. You need to find a job and maybe become a waiter or whatever and do that. And if you look at the history of artists, and by the way, isn't it fantastic, the benefit of not having it all, like we said in David and Goliath, So,
The disadvantage of privilege.
The disadvantage of being advantaged and the advantage of being disadvantaged. So there's a weird thing about art. A lot of art gets born out of pain. It's deep stuff, but it's like that. And I think real artists will say, well, if I need to live and buy bread, I'll need to find something to do. And then if you're passionate about music, you work the whole day, and in the evenings you will compose and do something else. So Charles Andy called it the portfolio life, and said, sometimes if you really love something, you'll find the money to support it. But you touched a very important point. I think the soul of a nation is expressed through art. We need to look after our artists. So,
they're also the keepers of our culture, I believe.
Isn't it
without artists, all kinds of artists, I don't know where we'd be from a culture perspective. So,
and then on that, I just need to state this. I'm not a communist, but you said you read the thing I wrote about Marikana. One of my favorite philosophers, a guy called Herbert Marcuse, he was a new Marxist, and he talked about living life as art. We've got this clean canvas. It's all about possibilities, and think about this. If you talk about leadership and art and creativity, so you want to lead me somewhere, but what's your vision? You need to paint the picture of the future. So I've been thinking a lot about leadership as art and as a creative act. If you can't create that picture and enthuse me to go with you, so I do think there's the analogies, the metaphors that we can use from art. So leadership's also an art. So I think we do it in pigeonholes. But if we look at life, they say tabula rasa, the clean slate. So where are you going? What are you doing? What colors are you going to do? And sometimes I think we get people to paint by numbers in life with our schooling system.
Yeah, and that's a nice segue into the work that you do, Jaco. Tell us a little bit about the work that you do with leaders, with organizations, with individuals, and what that's about, and what makes it unique, what makes it different from what other people who work in the same spaces that you do.
Thank you for the opportunity and asking that question. So, with a little bit of humor, my children definitely look at me and say, this guy's not well. He always got this different angle.
Tell them they should have figured that out when you studied your master's in philosophy. I was sold then.
Oh my goodness. So one day I spent some time at the Hartbeespoort Dam, and doing work for a corporate, training and development and change management. And I saw these beautiful birds walking on water lily leaves. They call them the African jacanas. And it kind of changed my life and gave me a new identity in a way, because the moment that these birds steps on a leaf, the leaf will bend under the weight and take on water, and it will start to sink. The whole concept of the water bird and walking on the water lily leaves is that in nature, your security is always in perpetual motion. It's going to the next leaf. But if you think about people, and it makes perfect sense, after the Industrial Revolution, companies did say to people, listen, join us, and we'll give you security, you just give us loyalty. But the picture's changed. But we are, these days, we're perfectly prepared for a world that no longer exists. because the analogy is our leaves are sinking, and it's sinking incredibly fast. But people still want security and comfort in the leaves. So liberation management is, I believe we need to become like the waterbirds. We need to say the only security we've got is, if we look at the waterbirds, they find the security in their feet, in their God-given competencies, not where we are now. So we need to liberate people and say, no. You cannot find, and I'll be as brutal as this, any long-term security in any structure, system, organization, or money. Your security is in your ability to keep on learning and to keep on moving. And then, Mandisa, I think a lot of people listen to this and they say, oh, so Jaco's saying the leave that you're on is not important. Don't be loyal. No, it's the opposite way around. It is that you are incredibly lucky if you're on a leave.
Yeah.
So respect the leave. Invest in the leave. Transience is beautiful. If you are with your loved ones and children, I mean, I always say, if there's a beautiful sunset or a rainbow outside, a double rainbow after a thunderstorm, you call everybody and you say, come quickly, be present.
Yeah.
The same with a leave. It might be the last time you're having a cup of coffee with your children. So nobody's saying, if you work for a company, if you're part of a structure, undermine it or don't see it as being positive. The opposite's the truth. You know that if you want to survive, you need to use the strength of this leave to go to the next one. So, yeah, it is. We need to start doing liberation management, because if you just think how many people would see in our country and have the expectation that somebody's got to provide me with a leave. So I think we all know that maybe the best constitution in the world, but we need to do intellectual and mental liberation, because nobody's coming. We need to keep on moving and do a massive security shift. And to me, that is liberation management. But it's a tough message, isn't it?
Yeah, apart from it just being tough, Jaco, for me, we send mixed messages, don't we, to people. On the one hand, what you're saying makes perfect sense. Mm-hmm. But on the other, organizations do send out that message that we will reward you if you're loyal, despite the fact that they're actually physically incapable of providing that long-term tenure and, everything that comes with that. Yeah. So how do people do that? How do people navigate that at an individual level when they live in this ambiguous messaging?
This is the leave we're on. Follow me. If you don't have the same vision, you're not going to make it. And then it goes with positional power. It goes with arrogance. And it's delusional, because we need to have leaders that say, listen, my first, I think, responsibility is to have people that are waterbirds, that can collectively carry the organization forward, the country forward. So leadership is about enthusing people and giving them the vision and helping them to move to the next leave. But there is, and it's a massive paradox, because people want leaders and they want the strong leader, and it's this populism thing in the world now, where a strong leader provides solutions and they provide security. Then you find your security in somebody else, and in power, really, it always ends badly, isn't it? Servant leadership is about saying, find your security in yourself. How can I empower you? And where are we going together, collectively? But this need for people to have a savior, to actually provide them with that security, I think it's just sad. Yeah. And unfortunately, that's the way the world's going at the moment, isn't it?
Absolutely. And how does your work, the work that you do, the interventions that you come up with, the solutions you implement with organizations, with individuals, how does it mitigate that? How does it enable people to show up differently? Mm-hmm.
Well, the first thing that you need to do is you need to create awareness and to say to people, I'm sorry that I've got to be the one to share this with you and tell you this, but your leave's going to sink. If you think about whether you are in the motor industry, if you're in the cellular industry, here's the question. The phone we make today, how long will we be able to make that? And imagine the arrogance of saying, we've got everything perfectly worked out. What we do now is perfect. We don't have to change. It's simply not true. So we just need to get people to understand what the nature of the impermanence of, we live in the VUCA world, isn't it? The volatility, the uncertainty, we all know the VUCA acronym. So firstly, we facilitate the awareness that the world is like that. And then secondly, how does it impact us? So we need to be liberated, because if we are not water birds and the leaves sink, we are going to perish, we are going to die. I always say in South Africa, pounds, we're going down. So we need courageous leaders that say, I need to have this rude awakening and say to you, we need to be a liberated, future-fit organization that find our collective security in our ability to change, in our God-given talents, in our ability to unlearn, I'm going to say something weird. So the only security we can have in this world is in change. And so how it mitigates this is you've got people that when you announce that's going to be changes, that we're going to reinvest and rediscover ourselves, they say, and reposition ourselves, they say, yes, we waited for it. Yeah. And yes, the other thing, we need people, and we need to liberate them so much that they become uncomfortable with too long stability, where they would look at the leaders and say, hey, we've been on this leave for a very long time. Where are we going next? And we need to empower people as well to take responsibility for that. So we first need to liberate people. And then if you talk about the ambiguity in this, but think about this. Most people, when they find a job, they'll start to relax and say, now I'm on a leave. What we need to do is we need people to look at this and say,
as we say.
Yeah,
this is my uncle's place.
Exactly, exactly. And yeah. What we need to do is to liberate people and to say, if this organization is a waterbird organization, if we're a waterbird nation, our security is in the next leave and the next leave. We need to keep on moving. And to do that, the collective entity consists out of the individuals. So to have a collective waterbird organization, you need to liberate the individuals. But here's the thing. People that have collective or positional power, don't like to liberate people, because then you lose that power to say, you're fired, or if you do this wrong. So we've got a massive leadership problem with examples in the world now, because we need leaders that are humble and say, no. Don't find your security in me. Find your security in your ability to move and to learn. And collectively, that's the only security we have. So we need to have humble leaders with visions and that can facilitate the greatness in the people around us, because we need everybody to look out to where do we need to go and what's the next leave. And if you think about it, it's always been like that, isn't it? Everything is impermanent in this world. Nothing is completely permanent. So that's what we actually do. We want to empower people collectively and say to them, first of all, are you a waterbird? Where's the water on your leaf, and where do we need to go next? So imagine what we've done in the past in HR. We appoint people, and then we say to them, here's the psychological contract. You just give us your loyalty, and we'll give you security. And then we talked about career paths. I mean, we're in a jungle, there's no career path. What we should do, and I think this summarizes it well, we should say to people, we give you an opportunity. What you do with it, that's your career.
Yeah. True. A few things that you've mentioned there. Powerful insights, by the way.
Thank you.
And thank you for sharing. The egomaniacal leader that you've just referred to, that actually doesn't want to relinquish power, and doesn't want too many people that are liberated in the system. And quite frankly, my experience is that in those organizations where this happens, the organizational systems seem incapable of dealing with such leaders. How do you navigate that? How do you navigate those people that heed your call, to become Jakanas, to navigate the terrain with such leaders? Because in the end, you're my boss, you pay my salary, you pay my bonus, you even determine whether I get to keep my job or not.
Absolutely, and I think that's the million-dollar question. Firstly, on that, I'm extremely worried that with the examples we've got in the world now, that we mistakenly call that leadership. And if you think at South Africa's history, I mean, what we've done here and what Hitler did, Nicholas Nassim Taleb, the guy who wrote The Black Swan, said the more the leaves are sinking in the world, so the more changes there are, the more people will try to find security and then say, let's go back to where it worked. So does this ring true? Let's make America great again. It's not going forward, it's going back. And it's saying we'll create the leave, again, the Hitler example, 1,000-year Reich. So the big lie is I am going to provide a leave for you and I'm going to rescue you. And this leave will float forever. Leaves doesn't work like that. We need people to create the future collectively and take responsibility for that. And I'm always saying to people, you know, if people don't allow you to do that, you've got a moral obligation to say, this organization is going to die if we don't empower people. So it's going to die if we don't create waterbirds. So our collective future is in how quickly we can change and how quickly we can move. I want to share this little anecdote and story with you. So I had an economist in my class one day, and he said to me exactly the conundrum you're sketching now. He said to me, so Jaco, you are encouraging people and saying to them, go to the next leave, and your security is on the next leave. But what if there are no leaves? What if we are in a recession? And then I said to him, you know, these birds, number one, can fly. And then I had a picture with me of one of these waterbirds not standing on a leaf, but on a hippo. And I said, you know, it's interesting. Leaves sink within, you know, if you watch these birds moving, the leaf would sink within the first couple of seconds. Yeah. Hippo is there for the whole morning. So the bird standing on hippo, number one, it's not dangerous. Number two, the hippo is full of insects, so it can eat it. It's like being in McDonald's and you're upsized for free. And then I said to him, imagine this, saying, but if there is a drought, there are no more hippos, there are no more leaves. Why don't you fly as high as you can and then ask this question, am I in the right dam? And I want to use this analogy and say the dam can be, imagine you're a woman, you're married, you get abused, you're married to a guy that drinks too much. At a stage, we need to do that liberation management and say, who put me in this dam? And is my security only in my marriage, or am I emancipated and liberated? And to ask that question. So it's incredibly courageous to ask the question, ask yourself, am I in the right dam? Why am I here? And does my leave define me? Because that would be very sad. And now the paradox is leaders like that would like to say, yes, the leaf is going to float, find safety with me because then I can rescue you. So I think it's psychological and physical liberation and emancipation if we can say, no, my leave doesn't define me. You'll enjoy this. I'll be brief, but I think this explains the story even better. So my youngest daughter brought a boyfriend home. Yeah. I'm going to be in trouble because of this, but it's fine. And she said, my wife passed away about 10 years ago, and I took my daughter a lot of times with me to the sessions that I do. So I said to her, just become a waterbird. You're a woman, but be emancipated. Never find your security in a man. And she said, yes, Dad, I understand that, obviously. And then she brought this boyfriend home. And then, you know what we do? We have a barbecue, braai, when we meet the first boyfriend. And she came to me in the kitchen. Did you have a gun
as well? Uh-huh. That was only visible to the poor guy?
Yeah. And hopefully we can be a little bit intimidating as the father. And in any case, this guy came and she said to me, you don't like him in the kitchen. I said, I don't like him? I mean, I think it's a father's job not to like them. But in any case, after this session with this guy and the braai, she came to me and she said to me, you really don't like him? And I said to her, but it's just this vape, this smoking, this everything. And I said, I'm not comfortable. And then she said, what worries you? Verbalize it, say it. And I said to her, my daughter, my love, can this guy, can he look after you? Wow. She said to me, you, they're brutal, the youth today, and it's the right thing as well. She said to me, you're a bigot. You taught me that this is not it. I listened, and now you ask me, you're insulting me. Can he look after me?
Yeah.
And she said, I love him. I will look after him. No man is my leave. So here's the thing, you're talking about that, when we talk to our children, we do say to them, find a good job. And then we informally talked about it. What's the message then? The message is your security is in a qualification, in a job, in a structure, in a marriage. And I honestly think that's wrong. The only security we've got is in ourselves and our ability to learn and to relearn. So how's this? And by the way, I said to my daughter, I'm sorry, you're right, you're your own person. If you want to look after a man, that's fantastic. But
you're a bigger man than most.
Well, if you've got 3 children, they make you big, you shrink to greatness. So imagine this, Mandisa, sometimes I think it sounds like a philosophical conversation. Here's what we can do in organizations. Imagine we welcome young people into a company and we say to them, listen, we've given you an opportunity. What you do with this is your career, number 1. Number 2, grow with us or outgrow us. But not growing is not an option here, because then we're taking the company back. But you see a lot of men, especially men, that have got positional power, see it as an insult when people outgrow them. So they don't like waterbirds, because waterbirds won't be bullied. Waterbirds will say, ma'am, sir, if you treat me like this, you don't have respect for me. I'm a waterbird. God made me like this. I can move to the next leaf and to the next leaf. And by the way, I don't even have to be in this dam. I can fly as well. If you think about bullies, if you think about these egomaniacs that's ego-driven, they don't like people like that. They surround themselves with weak people that need to be on a leave, and they provide, and it's power by association. So you can immediately see if there's a great leader. Great leaders will empower people and let them outgrow them and say, if we want to achieve our goals, we need to empower people, and that's the future. And the future is chaotic. You cannot say the quality of the follower is the one that says, yes, sir, thank you, sir, and be defined by that. And it works with fear. And I'm incredibly worried about the fact that that's the message we're sending in the world now, that great leaders are people that provide us with security. We find the security in the leader and we surround them with that. Coming back to Hitler again, with Operation Barbarossa, most of his generals and the intellectuals in Germany said, this is the wrong thing to do. But all of them feared him so much that they couldn't say that. So it took a whole country and almost the world down, and millions of people died. And we're in the same situation today. So waterbirds speak out. They're courageous because they say, well, fire me then, because my security is definitely not in a human being. It's in my ability to learn and to relearn. And it's good for people as well. But very often the political leader, and that I don't refer to politics only, the leader that says, I need people to support me, to vote for me. They derive their power from a lie that says, I can give you security. No human can give us, and we need our people to be liberated and to say, nobody's coming. I need to be a waterbird, then I carry my security with me. Interesting enough, if you think about it, if you say to people, grow with us or outgrow us, but not growing is not an option, who will you attract? The best people, because if people can use their imaginations and they can be creative and they can have critical thinking, they will say, the pay here is not the most important thing, but people allow me here to look into the future and to be critical and think about it. I always refer to culture as being like in a river, and we swim in the river, we drink from the river. Surely if the river gets polluted then, People that are waterbirds would speak out and say, no, excuse me, you might be in charge, but that's not the way we do it here. Then they take responsibility as well. Yeah, so I'm incredibly passionate and driven with this thing to say we might have a great constitution and a free country politically, but our people are unfree. We're not liberated because we want, and I think it's a human thing, international, globally, universally, that people want somebody to show up and to give them security, a savior.
Yeah. Despite evidence to the contrary, because I can promise you that I'll save you, but the minute I outsource my security to you, it's not going to take me very long to realize that actually I'm on my own.
You verbalize beautifully. I feel so good when people say that, because I often say to people, don't outsource your security. Yeah. So some leaders actually say, you need to outsource your security to me. That's not being free. And how do you get people to support you? Say, I will do it again. I will make it greater again, because people are looking for that. By the way, Nassim Taleb with the Black Swan book, he warns us against that. He says, as we're going into a more chaotic phase, and for goodness sake, we're in a chaotic time now, isn't it? People look for security again, and then they go back to where we found security. So if you think about, we need to speak the truth, and truth to power. So if you think, and I'll try to be balanced, but you think about the problem with ISIS.
Just be truthful.
Yes, it's like the problem we had with ISIS. Yeah. That's going back to Sharia law, where if you steal something, chop off your hand, and going back to where it worked. But we do the same with far right-wing Christianity. Let's go back to where it worked, and where did it work? So what's the argument? Should we go back to apartheid South Africa because there were no potholes? Really? I mean, that's absolutely pathetic to think about that. We've got to move forward courageously. We've got to look at the next leave and the next leave, because this thing about leaders that say, believe in me, give me absolute power, I will do it on your behalf. We all know that if you stand on one leave, and I mean quite physically, when you lie in a hospital bed for 6 weeks and you don't use your legs, you're not going to be able to walk. We are the same in organizations. So when people have been not moving and they found the security in the leaf and they fortified the leaf, if that leaf then sink, they die with the leaf. So it's immoral. It's wrong to say that. We need to have people, and we need to, as a nation, as a country, as individuals, find our security and our ability to learn and to unlearn and to move in perpetual motion. Change is security, and it's always been the nature of security. And if you think about companies now, if you don't grow, if you don't reposition yourself, and if you don't continuously find a way to the next leaf, you're simply not going to make it. So there's something hugely wrong in these leaders saying, I'm like, you almost see yourself like a god. If you say, we can sort this out, this leave will be the leave, 1,000-year Reich. Look how that ended.
I wanted to just say to you that I don't have any issues at all following any leader that wants to be followed, for as long as it makes sense to me. Yes. It can't be an instruction. You can appeal to me to do so, and I can decide based on what you stand for and how it talks to my value systems, right? So I'll follow you by all means. But also, where then following you means I follow you irrespective, that's unchecked deference to authority. And I'm not about that.
That's outsourcing our security and our dreams as well. So if you are at the beginning of a change, but you haven't gone through the transition yet, you are not here and you're not there, so you're nowhere. Yeah. So people are nowhere. So when people are nowhere, they need a Moses. They need a leader that says, I will take you there. And they blindly follow that. So if you think about it, we always criticize the leader and the person that provides the leave. But people ask for that. They want that. They want somebody to take responsibility for them. So here's the thing. It's easier to be a non-waterbird than a waterbird, because if you're a waterbird, you need to take responsibility for yourself.
Yeah, but to be honest, Jaco, I don't really feel sorry for leaders in that sense, because yes, people may want it, but half the time I find that leaders ask people before the people ask for it. We position ourselves like these saviors, that we've got these wonderful solutions. Follow me, listen to me. I've got all the answers. And when we do, then what's wrong with it? Then we even when we don't say it, when we don't verbalize it, when we we reward certain behaviors that are not Jacana behaviors.
At least if you look at our system, we also pay these people like gods.
Yeah,
and if you look in South Africa, the differentiation between the lowest people and the highest paid people is we trust in people to take us there. So something else that I want to say and feel passionately about is that, if you want to today survive, it's not optional to use all the intellectual capability in the organization. We need everybody's input. We need everybody's vision and wisdom. So if I've got 30 people, don't tell me one person alone can have all the energy and the vision to take us there. We need the brilliance of our people. We need to step back, and that servant leadership. We need to facilitate the voices and the greatness in other people and say to them, what do you think the next leave are? Do you think we're in the right dam? Where do we need to go? And like we said before, see, the thing is, it's easier to say, I've outsourced my security to you. Just think about this thing, and it's, I know we're being a little bit mischievous, but if you think about society, and we think about my role where my daughter called me a hypocrite. I mean, so you send your daughter to university, she meets a guy, and the first thing you ask her, can he look after you? So the social construct for what we do is we say, find a job, and we kind of expect to find security from the job. The saddest thing in the world is if your job and your position starts defining you. And what we're learning now, think about the leaves that's sinking in Europe now. They were dependent on America. The leaves sink, and then you go through the classic phases of change. Anger and denial and bargaining and depression, and we've got to go through that quickly now. So if we don't evolve and we learn, the only security we can have is in our constant movement and perpetual motion. We are going to go for leaders like that, because if you're not a waterbird, you're going to need a solid structure. And it's unnatural as well. You can never be happy if you do that. So I agree with you. It's 50% of the problem is like in the leaders, but the other 50% is if we've got people that are going to look for leaders like that, we'll never solve the problem. That's why we need to continuously do this liberation management. And maybe imagine this, if we recruit people and you do these assessments, recruit waterbirds, people that have made a security shift and find their security in themselves.
They're not going to glorify me as a leader.
Unfortunately, you see, just after the Industrial Revolution, if you look at how long companies lasted, Ford and so on were solid and floated for 100 years. So my parents said to me, do a good qualification and find a good job. And I joined the South African Post Office, 130,000 people in the Department of Post and Telecommunications. Where are they now? And so we all make a mistake if we find our security in there, and it becomes delusional. By the way, I think that this thing about leaders, when you sense there's water on the leaf and you're going to go down, then we're at our most dangerous, because we are at our peak, and that's when people do coups and they say, I know this thing's going to sink, how can I stop it from sinking? And they cling to power, because when they sense that we've reached the end, and if you're defined by your power and by your title, if you lose that, you lose everything, then you push back. An emancipated free person will say, I'm not my title, I can move on, I'm not defined by this, life's a project, I can start a new project. But if you become your role, if you become your position, then you can't let go of that, because then you perish. And we see that in companies as well. And in politics, then with world leaders, that's when they start using force to stay in power once they've overstayed their welcome. And I think we see the same thing in the corporate world. And we need to, we need to be zealous, and we need revolutionaries in organizations that can say, wait a minute, there's something fundamentally wrong here, because it's a moral issue. Liberation management's it's not optional. The only true future we'll have is if we constantly grow, move, and challenge and evolve.
Yeah. You have intriguing views about obedience. Could you share that with us?
Talking about being mischievous, Mandisa. So on these leaves with these leaders that say, I will rescue you, just vote for me, if you're loyal, this thing will work. I get incredibly irritated. I said earlier, I write a lot, but I'm obsessive compulsive. I can't go and sit down and write. But I wrote something one day because I watched television. Then I saw that where people differ from a leader, where they challenge a leader, they fall out of favor immediately and they get fired. So I'm observing two things. A lot of leaders today kind of expect over-obedience, and they think and over-obeyance, that's loyalty. And I'm saying if I see somebody's going to kill himself and everybody around him, I'm going to flag it and say, with all respect, sir, ma'am, I differ from this. That's my role. I need to do that. We need to teach our children that and say, why? And ask questions. And now I've actually seen this as well, that 50% of that problem lies with the leader, because they punish people that ask questions. And the moment that I don't agree with you anymore, now I am disloyal. Almost swore. It's bull. I mean, it's not. When I differ from somebody, I respect you enough to say, you're going to, if I believe in this country, in this company, in my family, I need to say, we're going to destroy ourselves if we do this. Where does this thing come from? And the other 50% is, if I want to raise, if I want to drive that nice car, if I want to get to the top, the one thing I need to do is I need to conform. And we see it in politics. I mean, we used to call it, today, it sounds like the wrong terminology, but we used to talk about yes men, isn't it? Yes. That people that say yes, say yes, say. I must tell you this. When I joined the post office, one guy jokingly said to me, Jaco, if you want to get promoted, wear a safari suit and grasshoppers. You need to look like these guys. You know, it's just like that. So it's morally bankrupt if there's over-obedience. I think I'll go this far. If you've got a board meeting and a meeting, and everybody always agrees about everything, then you've got a problem. I mean, if you've got a cabinet meeting, like we see on television, and everybody just says, this is the greatest president, the greatest guy we all agree with, there's a problem there. It's going to end badly. Nobody's a god. We need to actually get beyond this over-obedience and over-obedience thing. You know what? I would look at people and say, if you all agree with me, you don't like me.
What a refrain.
You know,
I like that.
You want me to die here?
Yeah.
So I've got this idea. You remember Edward de Bono, six thinking hats and lateral thinking. Yes, where he says we need to sit down and wear different hats and be devil's advocate. Because if you like me, you're going to say, Jaco, imagine if I share with you, I'm going to start a new business and I'm going to do this and I dream. And you say, gee, Jaco, I love you too much to let you fail. You need to think about 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that really is a bad idea. You're fired? I'm going to kick you out of my...
It's maturity, though. How many leaders do you know that are that mature? If you look at the South African business landscape, actually it's not even a business thing, just leadership landscape in general. How much of that kind of maturity do you experience in real life?
And I mean, we can, this is, how pathetic is this? So here's the thing, you know, the first mistake we make, we call them leaders. You know, there's a difference between managers and leaders. You know, to me,
note to self. This is the second time you're correcting me on this.
No, so leaders, I mean, if I'm a leader, talking about the art thing, I've got this vision. I think it's good. Nonaka and Takeuchi, two Japanese professors did this at Harvard, and they said leaders can grasp goodness. They can say, why is that? They recognize goodness for society and for everybody. They get people to buy in because they've got this vision. They say, I'm going there. Will you follow me? And when will you not follow me? Let's go there. That's a leader. We now call people leaders that say, the big honcho, the person in charge, said we're going there, so I'm going to lead you to go there because we will do 1, 2, 3, 4, and you'll follow the rules. That's not leading, that's mechanistic obedience to what the top dog said. Leadership is about, are we going in the right direction? Do you agree with that? Is there goodness in this for everybody? Is there a shared goal? So I think we need to say, if I appoint a leader is somebody that is critical, that's a waterbird, that can think and that can judge goodness and that can flag that because it's a moral obligation. That person we can call a leader. The others are administrators in the service of the king. That is a delusional godlike figure out there. So we need to teach children to have the courage to differ, and of course in a respectful way. And once we bought in and we need to go there, there are, I think, critical incision points where everybody needs to follow and to go there. But this brutal punishment of you disagreed with me once publicly, you are dead. I see that as an immense form of loyalty where your friends, people that are loyal to you, say, I'm not going to allow you to destroy yourself. Yeah. Even if I have to walk away and say I'm in the wrong dam, I don't want to be here, but I'm not going to allow you to do that. So this, we're just conformists, and we'll sink a whole country and a company like that easily when we can say, well, if I go against this person, tomorrow maybe I won't eat. See the link here. So if you're liberated and you're a waterbird, then you don't find your security by being on the leaf, because if I know I'm a waterbird, I can go to the next leaf and to the next leaf. Look at this. If I believe I'm not a waterbird, then I get my security from the leaf and the current situation, which means I can't differ from this guy, because if he fires me, I'm dead, because he successfully made me a non-waterbird. Yeah. So these delusional king-like figures that are almost godlike, that demand complete loyalty and can't get people to disagree with them, they hate waterbirds because they've got an inferiority complex. And who will they attract? Non-waterbirds that say, no, he's right, we need to support him. And I mean, really, we know it in Africa. So you surround yourself only with praise singers. Praise singers got a job to do. They walk into parliament, say, la, la, and they praise the guy and so on. But now you make all your ministers and senior managers praise singers. Who's going to criticize you? Who's going to say, are we doing the right thing? And you're right. We're seeing this at a level that's almost delusional. So over-obedience and over-obedience is a moral conundrum, because the people that demand that do that because they need to feel good about themselves, and it comes from insecurity. People that do that all the time are actually simply saying, I need to say yes, because if I disagree, I might lose my job, and I am my job, and I don't have the confidence to know if I can actually go to the next leaf and the next leaf and reinvent myself. So we honestly need to fight this and to, like in Marcuse's way, it's, what very few people get this, but think about it intellectually. Marxism is saying, let's overturn the system once. There must be a revolution. The new Marxists came, they said, permanent revolution. Now think about the leaves. Imagine this, Mandisa. If we can take the new Marxist philosophy and apply it to the free market and say, imagine anybody building a car or a cell phone and saying, this is the best cell phone ever made, and if you disagree with me, I'm going to fire you. There's no room for improvement. if you can get a capitalist and somebody in the free market, an inventor, entrepreneur, is the word I'm looking for, with a new Marxist mindset that say, the moment that we've built this car, how can we make it better? How can we change it? Permanent revolution. For that, you can't have over-obedience. You need people that are critical and can think. That's the essence of a liberated person and a waterbird. Yes, and you picked it up. So now we incentivize and promote people that say, yes, sir, thank you, right, sir, you are right. It ends badly for everybody, because when the leaves think we're all going down, we need to allow very strong people to be extremely critical, because they are actually good for us. But it's a little bit counterintuitive, but we need to be able to do that.
Yeah. Thank you, Jaco. And you've written a few books in addition to the many articles that you write. 5 books you've written. Tell us what the books are about.
So, yeah, I did a book called, I called it, maybe wrongly, technically, Visual Knowledge Management. Wrote it with somebody else, where I simply said, you've got to be able to manage with vision and say to people, that's where we're going. So we simply, with a big company, gave people canvases, and we said, where do you see the company in the next 10 years? And we wrote up the story. Then I wrote a book called Breakfast with Leonard, went to Cameroon, and the person who wrote the speeches for the president there, Leonard Okala, we talked about Africa and the problems of Africa, and he inspired me so much that I wrote a book on the way on the plane back home. And it's just about in Africa that we need waterbirds and we need to liberate ourselves. And then I wrote a book called The Messenger, from the perspective of the Jacana. It's actually the father of that one was more philosophical, and then somebody came to me and said, it's such a visual concept. So I did the cartoon one, like you see there. And the interesting thing is, people love pictures. So it's about visually, representing the Jacana. And then during COVID, going to your last question, I'll be brief. I just wrote the last book that I did is called The Engagement Alphabet, because I sat there and I said to myself, how do I want to be engaged? How do I want leaders to treat me? What's respect, and what do I commit to treat other people like? And I thought, contact a couple of my friends, and I said, can you, within 1 second, without thinking, tell me what's your rules of engagement? What's completely non-negotiable? How do you want to be treated, and how will you treat people? And you know what I discovered in myself and other people? We don't know. So if you don't know how you want to be treated, what you're going to be standing up on, what are you going to do? So I created this little book where I said, well, if I look at the alphabet, to me, these are the letters and the words that make sense. And it's like a moleskin. The second part of the book is completely open. I need to quickly say this. So what we do in companies to liberate them then, take the whole waterbird concept. We say the culture is the river, and we get people to fill out the river with words, with the engagement alphabet, and then say, in this company, we will have respect, we will have communication, we will differ from one another, we will have creativity, etc., etc. Think about the alphabet, what you can say for all the... We will have just think about creativity, and we will encourage and incentivize people that differ from us. So now if you've got these words and you fold out your engagement alphabet, then you can get a junior person that looks at the river, and you do it visually. You can see my obsession with doing things visually and visibly. Imagine this, if we've got a river representing our culture, and we sit in a meeting, and the CEO says something or does something that the most junior person in the company can then say, we use this analogy, you're taking me out of the river now, sir, or ma'am, out of the flow. This is not the way we treat people here, and we've agreed upon it, because we are visually managing our river. And by the way, I own the river. Thinking about over-obeyance. So you live next to the Vaal, and you allow people with E. coli and whatever to pollute the river. I mean, surely you're going to flag it and say, hey, this is my river. It's my children. I own this river. If we can have that in South Africa, people can own the country and say, that's not the way we do things here. We need to be custodians of our culture. We need to take responsibility for that. And surely just agreeing and letting that happen is not good enough anymore. So yeah, last thing about that. So the books or whatever I write, it's just when I really get upset, I go and sit down and say, somebody's got to hear this, whether they like it or not. And the weird thing is sometimes I think we have to confront being scared and looking at the rivers and say, or the leaves we're on and say, what if this really unleashes a lot of criticism? I mean, just tell the truth and speak truth to power. We absolutely need that now. Where we are now, we've never needed it more, because internationally and all over, if you disagree with people in power, we're going to cut your funding. Really? What is university all about? It's about free thinking. It's about being critical. It's about saying, where's the next leave? We need to pay people that differ from us, not to pay people to agree with us. That is definitely the guarantee of sinking an organization. And by the way, thank you for facilitating conversations like this with weird people like myself, because I absolutely think we need that, and we don't have enough forums for that. And thank God for social media and for podcasts that's not owned by rich, influential people, where we get the opportunity to speak out and talk to each other. We need so much more of that.
Thank you very much, Jaco, and thank you for being willing to share your weird views and influence the rest of us.
You are so thoughtful and kind. I really appreciate it.
I've got a final question. I give away magic wands on this show to apply in any area, any of the areas of concerns that you've raised. 3 things you would do to change things fundamentally for the better. Where would you deploy the magic wand?
I switch on the television and I see women and children dying. I saw, my kids live in Pretoria, and I saw these people, call them the trolley people, that sift through the rubbish bins. And there was a lady with a newborn baby on her back. And my daughter just had a baby. And you look at that and you're thinking about the cold weather and that newborn's on that lady's back. So the solution for this is, I think, and thank you for the wand. I think if we look in the world, Paul Ricoeur, great philosopher, talked about how we always look at the other and blame the other. And if you look at our problems in the world today, we demonize the other. If you look at politics, and you even take it back to the US, it's them and us, it's red or blue. God, if we can, and I'll only use it once, if we can say we've got one earth, we all live on it together. We are one. We really are one. There's no other. We demonize the other, and you can want to ring fence something. Once you have created an enemy and you're using fear, you can bomb people off from the face of the earth. You can kill their children and their women and their young people. And leaders, unfortunately, are doing it and saying, if you want to stay afloat, we need to get rid of them. It's always them. If we can just stop demonizing the other and see ourselves in the other and have dialogue and talk and get beyond that, that will solve most of our problem. Imagine this, there's a guy called David Bohm. He worked with Einstein. He wrote a book he called it On Dialogue. He's a quantum physicist, but he worked with Krishnamurti as well. And he said, we need dialogue because we've created these weapons of mass destruction to destroy ourselves, because we pray differently, we look differently, we approach things differently. We need to have the ability to have dialogue, to look at that and say, the enemy is within. I create the other to justify who I am. And a lot of leaders today, so-called leaders, get their power from fear and creating enemies in other people. And where we are at the moment, with bombs flying around and missiles flying around and the nuclear threat, I hope and I pray for it, and I would use the magic wand to say, they are us, he or she is me. I'm Freud had this thing where he said that if I need to attack other people, and the more you say you hate other people, here's an example, people that attack, for example, gay people physically or a gay bar, they say it's because you're afraid of the gay person inside yourself, so you go out to attack them. So whoever is our worst enemy is just us attacking the dark side in ourselves. We demonize other people. Mandisa, we don't have time. We're going to destroy the world. We'll destroy, we've got one world, like we see with global warming, but now we're on the edge of that. If we don't come to insight, we don't say the only security we can have is in learning, we're going to destroy ourselves. So God help us, that we can look at other people and see ourselves in them. And if I can see my children in other people's children, if I can see my daughter's baby in the baby that the lady carries on her back in this cold weather, that's what I would use your magic wand for. Because if we can do that just using it once, I think that will do unto others like you would have done to you. I think then we can leave the other two magic wands and like in the genie, the 3 wishes, we can leave it to a generation to come. If we can just get rid of that demonizing the other and see ourselves in the other, we'll solve a lot of problems.